and welcome to the Healthy Half Hour podcast. We are your hosts, Richard and Karen Inslee.
The Healthy Half Hour podcast is your resource for all things healthy, and we will be discussing how to make nutrition, fitness and lifestyle choices work for you.
We will be sharing our own personal insights along with research gathered from working in the health and fitness industry for the past 10 years.
Our show is brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, which can be found at 7dayshred.com, and please feel free to visit our podcast website, which can be found at healthyhalfhourpodcast.com.
And now on to today's show.
Hi, welcome back. So, what have we been doing this last week?
Episode 51.
Is it?
We never made a big rah-rah about episode 50.
Woo!
Well, that was last
because it was
week.
that really short video.
It was a short, quickie one, yeah, with the one we put on YouTube. If you've not been on YouTube to see our ugly mugs, then help yourself.
What do you mean? Your ugly mug, not mine.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I've not done a lot this last week because I've been sick with a cold, which has been horrible, like for you as well, because I've just kept complaining and kept you awake.
I just kept you at arm's length.
But I have done some self-care today. I've been to see our osteopath, so she's been helping me to like put bits not back together, but like rebalance things. So apparently I don't breathe properly. So she sent me home with some videos that you've got to help me with, apparently, because I breathe from the chest, not the diaphragm. But getting over my cold, I'm just chest breathing right now anyway. But it was quite entertaining.
We should do a podcast on breathing one day and diaphragmatic breathing. Because to say a lot of people don't.
Because I was talking to our osteopath, like Darcy, today, and like you say, back in the 80s when it was all fitness classes and like, oh, you're all chest breathing, you're told to like chest breathe, and we were like discussing it today and how things change. So, and
that's one good thing about yoga. At least when you go to a yoga class, they'll get that out of you, because again, it's more diaphragmatic breathing and moving with your breath as well, which again just makes yoga work.
Well, she couldn't get me to keep my chest like on the bench. Like I kept lifting, like I kept like
make your obliques work. So today's podcast, as we said last time, is basically the cost of getting lean. So I'm not saying dollar value. I'm actually looking at, or we're actually looking at, what the cost is you've actually got to kind of put out there time-wise, kind of what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, how much buy-in you're willing to give to a healthy lifestyle to achieve it. Because, again, it's not something that's just going to come to you. You've got to give things up and you've got to make changes in your life, and some people aren't prepared to make obviously the full-on changes that you need, and they're going to get to the point where they're actually kind of happy where they're at, and that's where they'll stay. They may move on at some point later in the future, but again, how much they're willing to expend to actually get a leaner body is down to the individual. And again, we respect that as trainers and health professionals, that, you know, people's buy-in is people's buy-in. So, I mean, not everybody wants to be skinny six-pack and willing to do the work. And I mean, to be honest with you, if you want to get to that point, that kind of figure model, kind of stage presence look, then the work is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it's an absolute ton of work.
And we always say that, is it, we have a visitor that might start purring down the microphone, so we should be videoing this one.
Yeah.
So is it worth sacrificing getting the body that you love at the expense of leading a life that you actually hate? Because a lot of the times, like you just said, like if you're actually striving to get on that stage and get that six-pack and win a plastic trophy for standing on stage in a bikini the size of a postage stamp.
I'd look good in a bikini.
Yeah, you would. Like, you know, you've got to sacrifice a lot to get a body, but you're often leading a life that you actually hate because that cost of getting lean is just brutal.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no real trade-offs with that. I mean, you're in or you're out. It's like saying you're 80% pregnant. You're not. You're either full on or
Really?
you're not. Yeah, apparently. You're either full on or you're not. But again, that's kind of the other end of the spectrum. We're just going to kind of look in at the end of the spectrum. Okay, your doctor says you're overweight, or you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're realizing that, yeah, I kind of need to do something about it, and really kind of what's your buying going to be? Because I mean, again, we get people come to us, and to be honest with you, we love like people setting goals, and we set goals and things. But sorry, the cat. Oh. Thinkers, pack it in. People set goals, and to be honest, a lot of those goals are very unrealistic in the time frame that they think. And I mean, it's all well and good saying I want to lose 50 pounds, 80 pounds, whatever it may be, and thinking it's going to be like 6 weeks or 2 months, or really, I mean, that stuff is 12 months, 18 months, 2 years down the road. And depending on what your buy-in is, obviously depends on how quick it gets done. So again, with that buy-in, how many times are you prepared to go to the gym? How many meals a week are you prepared to actually change? How much of those foods are you prepared to change in those meals?
Are you going to want to weigh and measure absolutely everything?
Are you going to want to miss like social occasions out with your friends? Because again, at that point, you don't want to go out, because again, it may be to somebody's house, or maybe something where again there's going to be a lot of temptations there, and this is going to kind of stifle your progress. So there's a lot of different things that really you've got to weigh up, and before you even decide on you're going to lose weight, or you're going to lose how long it's going to take you to lose that weight, you really need to figure out what your buy-in is going to be. And to be honest, sometimes you don't actually know what your buy-in is going to be till you start. So you've got to be, like we always say, prepared to make changes. So really, with the start, you've got to decide what you're willing to do, how much time you want to allot to this. Because again, as we've probably mentioned on other podcasts, and I've said to clients before, is okay, so you're going to work out 4 times a week. That's 4 hours a week. Do you have 4 hours where you just sit and look at the wall and do nothing?
Our cat does.
True. Probably not, because I mean, at the end of the day, you may be watching TV, you may be entertaining the kids, you may be doing this, that, or the other. So you've really got to carve 4 hours out of what you're doing. Yes, you can start missing some TV, some Netflix, some internet time or whatever, because again, these things, it's a lot of the time just whiling away your life. And we've had it with our corporate clients, and we discussed it with them when we did like our one-on-one meetings with a certain group, that one of our suggestions was curb social media. And a lot of them, kind of the light bulb went on, and, well, yeah, I could kind of not do Facebook or Instagram a day and gain an hour. So again, sometimes it's just simple things like that, but it's simple things thinking ahead before you actually get going.
And I can actually relate to this, because back in 2008, I decided it would be a good idea if I entered a figures competition. And it was just for shits and giggles, really, just to see...
More giggles than shits.
Yeah, just to see what progress I could make. And I look back on it now, and like 10 years later, to be honest, like my body fat and my weight are actually not much different to what it was 10 years ago. There's only a couple of pounds difference in it, and the body fat's probably not far off from what it was. But it took a lot of, like you say, time, structure, like dedication. You had to like micromanage absolutely everything. And I look back on photos from back then, and the bags under my eyes, my skin was green. I thought I looked great. I mean, on the stage when you've got a tan painted on your body and you've got like all the like bling like makeup and false eyelashes on and bright lights on you, yeah, you look great. But when you actually look at photos that I took in the gym, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I looked absolutely terrible. I got some muscle definition and I was pretty skinny, but at the end of the day, I was at my most unhealthiest ever. And it, like saying, it just consumed my life.
Yes, and that's one thing. I mean, you look in magazines, and I mean, it shows like males, females, six-pack abs, and all the rest of it. I mean, to be honest, a lot of the times, unless people, some are genetically gifted, but the majority of these people are dieting like crazy. They're doing stupid things with supplements to try and lose water weight just for these photo shoots to look great, and it's really not a sustainable thing. But the fitness industry and the media and people in general just think it's such a healthy, good look that really it isn't a healthy thing to do. It may look great, but again, sustainability is something that it isn't. A lot of people aren't able to keep that up. So again, looking at fat percentage wise, I mean, fat percentage normally for men should be late teens. So you're probably looking 18, 19, probably 20, 21 maybe. And women, again, because women have more fat than men, because again, they're baby makers. So, I mean, women's fat should be around 23, 24, kind of 25%. And kind of those are those healthy weights. But again, that just, again, depends on that person. We've had girls come to boot camp. I remember one girl came to our boot camp, I think it was out in Ely, and we did the impedance meter on her, and she was 10% body fat. But that was just her genetics and how she was. And I mean, she was perfectly normal, perfectly happy, and everything was normal with her. We've had friends, again, do the stage presence, do the bodybuilding, that, and a lot of times women will suffer from what they call amenorrhea, which is basically they lose the periods because the body now is so metabolically damaged that it hasn't even got the energy to run a lot of its normal cycles. So again, it can be so health damaging to people. It may sound like utopia to some, but again, from a metabolic point of view and from a health point of view, it really isn't a healthy spot. So kind of circling all the way back to the start where you kind of, okay, you're 20, 30, 40 pounds overweight and you're kind of thinking what you're going to do. So where do you start? And we've said time and time again, just start with some healthy habits. Don't change everything at once. Because if you're going to change everything at once, then 9 times out of 10, or 99 out of 100 in our experience, is you're going to fail. You're just going to try and change everything at once, and it's unsustainable. So look for sustainable changes. Look at cutting back on those processed foods, processed drinks. Cut your portion sizes down a little bit. Do some exercise, something as simple as walking, or something as, you don't have to join a gym. Just do something to get your heart rate up, just to get your metabolism to start rolling a little bit more. And just do less of those things that kind of, what unhealthy looks like, and see how that goes for you. If you can start adding more things in over time, that's great. If you need the help of a trainer or a nutritionist or someone, get them in to help you. And again, slowly, as the weight will start to come down, things will start to change for you. I started with a gentleman in his late 60s at the beginning of, where are we now? So middle of October. So he's just coming up to his end of his 4th week. And his big thing is he wanted to lose some weight and blah, 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 blah. And he was putting some weight around his middle. And then we kind of got to talking, and his blood sugar numbers were late 7s, early 8s consistently. And I said to him, at the end of the day, my concern with him is he's pre-diabetic. We really need to look at kind of changing his foods and getting him normalized there. And, things will start to move. So we're in week 4 of working together. His blood sugars now are 5.5, 5.6, 6.1, depending on what he's doing. But he's in that late 5s, early 6s, depending on what happened the night before. He emailed me over the weekend. I'm really pissed off. My weight didn't change. And I just emailed back saying, but weight isn't the key factor in my mind at the minute. And just kind of explained to him that the weight will follow. And as Karen's famous saying is,
can't lose weight to get healthy. You've got to get healthy to lose the weight.
So now his metabolism's starting to level out. His blood sugar's starting to level out. So, I mean, with him in the next 4 weeks or so, I'm confident that his weight will start to drop down as his body starts to normalize and just realizes this now is his regular blood sugar levels aren't just a flash in the pan, and his body's going to start to normalize. I'll keep you posted with this one in future podcasts, but I mean, that's just where we are in 3 weeks. I mean, we've dropped his blood sugars 2 points, and he says he feels great. He's got more energy, he's healthy, and sometimes, again, we just get blinkered by the scale, by the weight. Although he says his pant sizes have dropped a size from 38 to 36, and he's still bewildered as why the weight isn't changing. So again, all these good things are happening around it. And again, we haven't done anything really major league. I mean, exercising wise, I've just got him to walk a little more, and I've just got him to kind of change his diet and cut some of the processed foods out. Yes, he's not losing weight, but things are moving in the right direction. So with him, again, he's in his late 60s, so his buy-in, I mean, he's got obviously issues with moving as well. He's not as nimble as what he was 30 years ago, so it's something we're going to work on. But his buy-in, he's bought into this, and we'll see how it goes. So again, he just chose that, but we chose not to jump full on in and make it something unsustainable for him. So hopefully in the next 4 weeks coming up, we'll start to make things more sustainable.
And one of the things that a lot of people do, they'll gravitate to a certain way of eating. And I know that we mentioned keto, paleo, there's that many of them, Atkins, whatever. But a lot of the times people obsess with micromanaging their nutrition and losing weight, that they end up developing eating disorders. And I see this a lot with my private clients and with corporate clients. And I actually made a comment in a Facebook group today that myself and my brother in about this, because when you're obsessive over micromanaging your nutrition and you develop those eating disorders can turn into depressive symptoms. And then you start dealing with mental health and full-blown depression. And this is all at the cost of getting lean, because people obsess to the point that they develop the eating disorders. They don't actually lose the weight that they're looking to lose, or the scales isn't moving. The numbers are not going where they want them to. And like I say, they just drop into depressive states because things are not going how they perceive them to go. And sometimes we have unrealistic goals. I mean, you mentioned a few minutes ago about different body fat percentages. And to be honest, you can go on the internet and find loads of different pictures. Somebody that's at 20%, somebody that's at 25%. And the one at 25% might look way better than the one at 20, just because of how their body is made up, their genetics, their lifestyle habits, how much they go to the gym. So those numbers, people do obsess too much on them. And like you say, that cost of getting lean can develop into way more psychological problems than just worrying about the number on the scales.
And again, like we've said, figure out what you want to do, and again, figure out what you're willing to do. But what is important as well is just figure out what you're not willing to do. So again, there's a line with everybody, and make that line. Draw that line in the sand and say, okay, I'll do this, 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 and this, but I'm kind of like going out with my friends once or twice a week. Stick with it, you know what I mean? Don't be a social outcast just because you want to be lean. Make better choices more often while you're out. But again, be honest with yourself, and if you're honest with yourself at the start, then it reduces all that backpedaling 3-4 weeks down the line, a month down the line, when you kind of look, I kind of bit off more than I could chew. So really just, obviously, like we've said before, you got to start somewhere, but being honest with yourself and kind of finding out what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do, and how much time you're kind of willing to exercise into this process. And run from there. If nothing happens, if your weight doesn't move, if your blood sugars don't move too much, or whatever you're tracking, then obviously you need to step your game up a little bit and then move it up. Everything works until it doesn't. So again, the changes you make now, in 6 months' time, you're maybe just maintaining the weight again. So if more weight loss or to improve your health and fitness is the next kind of step forward, then move forward a little bit more. But again, it's one of those things that's going to take time. And I was just talking with a client this afternoon, and we were talking about foam rolling and stretching and things. And I said to them, we were talking about it, and I said, other clients have asked me, when can I stop doing this? And I said, well, basically the day they nail the lid down, because really that's the day you've got to stop look after yourself, because there's nothing else to look after. So there's no real end point with this. It's just creating better habits and moving forward with your life as best you can and trying to live a long and happy, healthy life.
And I think, like, say, you were spot on when you said, like, instead of deciding how much time you can actually dedicate to getting leaner, it's determining what you're actually not going to do, because at the end of the day, that will determine your overall buy-in. But I've seen that, like, I've had like clients in the past that like self-sabotage themselves as well. They have all good intentions and they start losing the weight, and then they will subconsciously like self-sabotage, because all of a sudden they're going like, oh, I'm going to lose all this weight and I don't know what people think about me. And like, they might start making comments, and like, why they're overweight, they become happy with that excess weight, and they
comfort blanket.
Yeah. Then that body fat has become their friend, and they kind of blend into the background. But then all of a sudden, subconsciously, they start thinking, well, people start noticing me and paying attention to me. And you often get like a lot of people who are a little bit introvert and reserved because they are on the heavier side, and then it starts to scare them. The cost of getting lean means that people are going to be paying them attention, and they might not be ready for it. So they actually don't sabotage themselves on purpose. It's just that like internal trigger, and it's not something that they do on purpose. And a lot of people will say to us like, my friends are not on board. And we've said this before, like, well, get new friends then. You've got to surround yourself with other like-minded people, because it's not just the cost of getting lean. We're just like looking at, losing weight, getting leaner, getting healthier. And so you've got to surround yourself with other like-minded people, because then you might find that the things that you're not prepared to do are actually less than what you originally thought.
Yeah, and everybody's version of healthy is their own. Like I've said before on other podcasts, I mean, some people go to the nth degree, they've got no Wi-Fi, they put grounding straps on their bed, all the water's filtered and got minerals in it and blah, 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 and it's, it's to walk around with a breathing mask on all day to filter the air in their mouth, into their lungs and everything. So, again, everybody's version of healthy is their own. So really decide on what your healthy is, and like I say, figure that out. Figure out what you're willing to do. Figure out what you're not willing to do, and make a step and do something. Because I mean, you can sit and procrastinate about the whole thing as long as you like, but again, the first step is always the hardest step. And once you kind of get that rolling, it is step by step, and it's a journey. You're not going to step into the end, and that's why we have road maps. Or now Google Maps. So again, you know where your start point is, you know where the end point is, and hopefully you can pick the shortest route in between and get there. So hopefully with this, we've kind of just give, again, a few more insights into that costs of getting lean, because again, nothing comes without a cost, and you've always got to pay the ferryman at some point. So it's, make your mind up and it's your choice. The next podcast, Karen.
Yeah, we've done one on sugar before, but we actually kind of want to touch on some of the chemical sugars, artificial like sweeteners. It's always been like a grey area, and the debate like for and against them has just been like all over the place. So
yeah, so not all sugars are created equal. So we're going to talk all about sugars on the next podcast. See you then.
That's all we have time for right now, but we do hope that you join us for our next show. And if you want to contribute to an upcoming show by suggesting a topic that you would like us to discuss in more detail, then hop over to our website, healthyhalfhourpodcast.com, subscribe to our podcast and submit your suggestions. The Healthy Half Hour Podcast was brought to you by the 7 Day Shred, and don't forget to share our details with your friends and review our show. Until next time, thanks for listening.